tweet at Saturday RTE.
Now, the Taoiseach has asked for a review into Department of Health practices after RTE Investigates reporter Conor Ryan revealed that secret dossiers were created on children with autism and their families involved in legal actions against the state. Shortly before we came on air, I spoke to Ernst Cantillon, a solicitor who acts for a number of the families who were affected by these disclosures. I began by asking him if he was surprised by what the RTE Investigates documentary had revealed.
I was surprised. I mean, over the years, I've acted for a number of children who had special educational needs but were not getting any education. And then since the primetime broadcast, I've been contacted by quite a number of those people wondering if they're part of a dossier that the whistleblower says was maintained on some families. And they're worried and frankly quite angry. They want to know, has the department a dossier on them? And all I can say is I currently don't know, but I will do my level best to find out by asking the department, and if necessary, seeking the assistance of the Data Commissioner in ascertaining the position. I mean, if what the whistleblower says is correct, then these families will be entitled to sue the state for damages for breach of their rights to confidentiality and breach of their data protection rights.
Now, of course, we know that the department has said that what was done in their litigation department was normal practice.
Well, I mean, I think I should perhaps give you a brief idea as to how these cases were dealt with by me and the departments involved. And when I was told by a child's parents that they weren't getting education, I would get in the files from the HSE or any other departments involved. And if the files confirmed that there was a lack of appropriate provision, I would sue the HSE and the Department of Health and the Department of Education. And the universal practice then was for the solicitors for the state to contact me and ask for a copy of the file that I had on the child. And I would seek parental consent to release the file. And if it was forthcoming, I'd give a copy of the child's file to the solicitors representing the state. And that practice recognised, firstly, that there was a duty of confidentiality owed by the state agency to the child, and it was not an order for the agency to access the file without my client's permission. And secondly, it recognised the state's obligations under GDPR, General Data Protection Regulations. The state may have possession of the file on the child, but they had them for limited therapeutic purposes and should not access the files without my consent or my client's consent for any other reason, such as litigation. And that was a practice that's been in place for 40 years. I mean, if what the whistleblower says is correct, they were engaging in a charade with me by looking for my consent for documents that they were already accessing. But the more troubling allegation that I took from the programme was the allegation in relation to the department contacting doctors and asking the doctor to breach patient confidentiality. I mean, I was astounded by that, if it's correct. And I would be surprised that any doctor would do it. And if they did do it, they would be leaving themselves open and the HSE, if they were employed by the HSE, to action for breach of that. And I think that the serious view would also be taken by the Medical Council of such carry-on, if it happened.
And indeed, the Medical Council has issued a statement indicating that they would take these matters very seriously. And as you point out as well, we are, of course, dealing in the realm of allegations at this point. The Minister for Health has said his department will carry out urgent and detailed review of cases where these files containing medical and educational information on children were maintained. Is that good enough from your perspective?
It's not good enough that I welcome that there's an investigation, but I'd welcome the proper, fair, transparent and independent investigation. I mean, the way the state have been dealing with vulnerable people who've been wronged by the state is regrettable, is the kindest word I can say about it. When someone is wronged, be it inadvertently wronged by the state, the immediate response is to deny and to treat the citizen as the enemy that needs to be put down. And we've seen this, take Louise O'Keeffe. Take a few weeks ago with the case of Joan Lucy, a cervical cancer victim. She was denied an apology on her deathbed. I mean, it's high time that the state took stock of the way it responds to those that it has wronged, and it's regrettable the way they've done it up to now. And they need to now, I suppose, look at the dormant cases as well, and get a truly independent person to look at their files to see whether or not what the whistleblower has told us is correct or otherwise.
And from your perspective now, and from your the families that you have represented, what's your next steps on Monday morning?
Well, what I'm told to do by the families is to find out, as I say, if there is a dossier held on them. I will ask the department, I will send them an authority from the clients and ask them to investigate it. And I would hope that I will get a truthful response. And if I don't get a truthful response, or if I'm worried about the adequacy of the response, I will go to the Data Commissioner. And if there is breach, and if what the whistleblower says is correct, I expect to receive instructions to sue the state for the breaches that have occurred of client confidentiality, doctor-patient confidentiality, and or GDPR breaches.
Ernest Cantillon, many thanks for giving us your time today.
Welcome.
Louise O'Reilly, you wanted to respond there.
I do. Firstly, we owe a debt of gratitude to Shane Corr, to the whistleblower, but what I would say is this practice has to stop. Families need to be told, and an independent inquiry needs to be established immediately.
Would you support an independent inquiry, Colin Brophy?
I think with the Taoiseach has announced an inquiry, I think we have to go with that. The practice, I believe, absolutely should be stopped. And I believe the initial response from the Department of Health was not a correct response that came from their Secretary General. I think it was deeply disappointing the way it was handled initially. And I welcome that the Taoiseach and the Minister have moved very quickly to correct that. But it is to me, what happened was totally unacceptable.
Padder?
The HSE
very quickly, Padder, sorry.
The HSE and the government battle patients through the courts all the time. They're doing that right now to women with regard to cervical check, sometimes until the death of that individual. We've had four previous ministers for health who are currently in the cabinet.
I'm really sorry to cut across you, Padder. I'm being told I'm out of time.